Hi guys, it's Miss Maya from the Green Free Library, here to share another story time with you. How's everybody doing at home? Hope you're well. I'm well. I want to say hi to my friends from Story Time, Lydia and Ella and Quinn and Cerie, and hi to Parker and Anna and Peter. Hi to Kate and Andrew and Stanley and Henry and baby Charlie and all the other children that came to the library for story time. And welcome to everybody else that's watching today. I thought we'd get warmed up by singing I'm a Little Teapot. I think you guys remember that. So show me your handle and show me your spout. Ready? I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, hear me shout. Just tip me over and pour me out. Okay, let's change it up a little bit. Let's put our handle over here and our spout over here. Ready? I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, hear me shout. Just tip me over and pour me out. Good job. So let's sit down and show me your hands. Ready? Open them, shut them, open them, shut them. Give a little clap. Open them, shut them, open them, shut them. Lay them in your lap. Very good. We've talked a lot about spring lately. We're actually in a new month now. It's May. We've talked about seeing signs of spring like tulips and daffodils, and of seeing robins and hearing peepers. And we talked about a special day that happens in the spring on April 22nd. Does anybody remember what that day was called? Yep, Earth Day. You got it. There's another special day that happens in May every year. Does anybody know what that is? I'll give you a hint. It's a special day for someone in your family. Mother's Day. That's right. Very good. So I have a special story I'd like to read to you today. It's one that my mom read to me when I was little, and it was my favorite. And it was called The Shoemaker and the Elves, or The Elves and the Shoemaker, depending on who was telling the story. But as you can see, she used to read it to me from this book. And this book is well loved. It's missing the front page and cover and a few other pages. So I'm going to read the story to you today from this book. Now, the original story was written a long, long time ago by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. But this one is adapted and written and illustrated by Jim LaMarche. And he calls his The Elves and the Shoemaker. So let's see what happens. There was once a good shoemaker who, through a spell of bad luck, had become very poor. Finally, he had just enough leather to make one pair of shoes. Still, it's a fine piece of leather, said his wife, as soft as butter, yet as strong as your hands. Tonight, dear wife, I will cut the leather, said the shoemaker, and first thing in the morning, I will sew the shoes. The next morning, when the couple went into the workshop, they were flabbergasted by what they'd found. There on the work table stood 2 shoes, perfectly finished, not a stitch out of place. But who? How? Sputtered the shoemaker. His wife could only stare. Just then the dandy gentleman came into the shop. What magnificent shoes! Please, I must try them on, he said. The shoes fit perfectly. It was as if they had been made just for him. He was so pleased that he paid double the price. Now the shoemaker had enough money to buy the leather for 2 more pairs of shoes. Again that evening the shoemaker cut out the leather for the shoes and went to bed. And once again in the morning there were the shoes finished. Buyers were not lacking for these either, and as before they were so pleased they paid double the price. Now the shoemaker had enough money to buy leather for 4 more pairs of shoes. The next morning, just as before, the shoes were already made. There he is cutting out the leather. And there's the shoes all done. 4 pair. On and on it went. Whatever the shoemaker cut out in the evening was finished by morning. Soon the news of the splendid shoes spread throughout the town, and the shoemaker and his wife were no longer poor. See all the people coming to buy shoes from his shop because they were so nice. They were the best shoes in the land. One evening, not long before Christmas, as the shoemaker cut more leather for shoes, his wife spoke, "Dear husband, who has made us so rich? What if we were to stay up tonight and see who comes to our shop?" The shoemaker agreed. So that night they lit a small lamp in the hall and hid behind their coats, and they waited. As the clock struck midnight, they heard the creak of a window and the scuttle of small feet. Peeking out from behind the coats, they saw two tiny children sneak into the workshop. They were poorly shod, and they wore only raggedy sacks for warmth. "Elves!" the shoemaker's wife, Mister, whispered. "Can you see them? They're coming in the window, right there." The tiny elves tiptoed across the room and climbed up onto the table. Then, humming and whistling, they began to stitch and sew and hammer so quickly with their little fingers that the shoemaker and his wife could not believe their eyes. There they are, peeking. There are the elves. They're working so hard and so fast, making beautiful shoes. The elves did not stop until all the shoes were finished and stood lined up on the table. Sturdy riding boots, delicate slippers, feather-light dancing shoes, and heavy clogs for work. Then the elves tiptoed out of the workshop, up the stairs, and out the window. The next morning the wife said, "The little elves have made us so rich, we must give them something in return. They run around with so little on, they must be freezing. I will make a warm dress coat and pants and knit them each a pair of stockings. And I shall be happy to make them each a pair of fine shoes," said the shoemaker. They went right to work, and that evening they laid the presents on the work table. Then, like before, they hid behind the coats and waited. There's the clothes that they made them. See? At midnight, the elves quietly slipped into the shop, ready for another night's work. But instead of pieces of leather, they found the beautiful presents. At first, they were too astonished to move. Then they hugged their new warm clothes and quickly put them on. There they are, getting all dressed up. I think they liked their new clothes. When they were dressed, they leaped and bounced around the room, singing, "Now we're elves so fine to see, no longer cobblers will we be." They jumped over the chairs, raced around the shop, and finally ran out the door. The click and the clack of their new shoes echoed through the streets. They look pretty happy, don't they? From that time on, the elves were not seen again, but the shoemaker and his wife lived a long and happy life. The end. As I said, that was my favorite story that my mom used to read to me, and I always think of it when I read it. So, do you guys have a favorite story that your mom reads to you? If so, maybe you could read it together on Mother's Day. For our art project today, I thought we'd make something for your mom. You'll need an adult or an older brother and sister to help you because there's cutting involved. And you'll need some paper, and you'll need some scissors, and something to color with, and some glue. So what you want to do is you want to take your hand and put it on one piece of paper and trace it, or have somebody trace it for you, and keep your fingers kind of spread apart like that. Then you need to cut the hand out, and you need to glue it on to the other piece of paper that you have. But don't glue the fingers, all right? You'll see why in a minute. You can glue the thumb and most of the hand, but don't glue the fingers, all right? Then you're going to need to cut some long strips like this. Depends on how many flowers you wanted. I used 3, but you could have more, 3 or 4. And then I drew some shapes for my flowers. I kind of made like a tulip and maybe a little daisy. All right. Now I cut them all out. Then I colored my flowers with markers, but you can use pencils or colored paper. And you want to glue the stems so they come down through the hand. Can you see that? And glue the flowers at the top. And then you want to put glue on the tips of the fingers of the hand that you cut out and fold it over and press them down hard. Now, you could try a glue stick, but I tried it and it didn't work as well for me. The real glue made them stick better. So hold them down for a few minutes, and then it looks like the flowers are being held in your hand that you made. Now, I wrote Happy Mother's Day on my picture. You could have somebody help you write that, or whatever you want to say to your mom. And there we have our gift. All right? So that's all I have for today. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I hope you have a very wonderful Mother's Day with your mom at home. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.